Hello, folks. Welcome to your T-Test lecture, also known as Students T. There's a history lesson there for it. If you're interested, I'm sure you can ask your instructor and they will let you know. But it has something to do with the Guinness Brewing Company in Dublin, Ireland. All right. So, what does a T-Test do? Well, what it does is it compares the means of two groups. That's it. You look to see if the means of the two groups are different, and if they are different, are they statistically significantly different, and you report that. So what are you going to need to do this? You will need means, standard deviations. They let us know the variability of those means. The T that you're actually going to calculate, well, SPSS will calculate, the degrees of freedom, and the P value. So without further ado, let's open up SPSS. And here is, again, my general social survey data. I'm going to give you two examples here. But again, the type of variables you need to make this work, before I move on, is you need one variable. It needs to be a nominal variable with two possible response categories. This could be, like sex, male, female. It could be, answers to yes, no questions, or if it's just agree and disagree, only two possible answers. Anything that has two possible answers, and you want to compare those two groups, the people who answered it one way and the people who answered it the other way, on some other variable, then that will be an appropriate one for this. That would be an appropriate nominal level measure for this test. Now, the other measure needs to be an interval level or ratio level measure. SPSS calls them scale, but you'll need one of those as well. Those would be things like income, years of education, and so on. So, our two examples, let's go ahead and get it started. We are going to choose, let's go with gun law. We like that one. We've used it before in other examples. And you look here, you're like, how do I know how many groups this is? How many possible answers? Well, I'm in variable view here. All right, you go to values. A little gray box will pop up. You click it. It tells you what the value labels are. So you're like, but Mike, that looks like more than two. Well, there's only two that matter: favor and oppose. All these other ones we ignore. Zero means they weren't even asked it. Don't know, not applicable. If you don't know the answer, we don't care. We don't want any of this stuff. So we just need the one and the two, and that's all we're going to tell SPSS to look for. So that's our nominal level measure. Cool. We'll use gun law. Let's see. Let's go with education. Now this is recorded. We'll go ahead and click here on this little box. It just has the missing ones listed, and why that is because the actual values for people are just numbers. They answered it. I'm 18. I'm 27. I'm 45. And so those are the actual values, and they just let you know the missings, how they coded those. Again, these folks aren't important to us. Okay. So to do a t-test, you will go to Analyze, and you'll go down here to Compare Means. Now you have lots of options. Now, the kind of t-test you do on survey data is going to be, there's different ones here, but we're going to do the independent samples t-test. This is how we compare the two groups. There's paired sample ones as well, but that's a whole nother ball game. All right, again, I'm going to right-click on this mess over here because I don't like the labels. I want the names. Okay. So we'll go to gun law. Oops, that doesn't go there. Gun law goes into our grouping variable. The grouping variable is going to be your nominal level measure that you're using. Now notice how here it has gun law, question mark, because it's asking you to define the groups. And we know from when we clicked on that gray box, the groups we care about are labeled 1 and 2. Now our test variable, this is the thing we wanted to see if they're different on, education. So this is a t-test to test the difference between people who favor and people who oppose gun laws on their levels of education. Go to options, because we need some options here. Yep, we'll want that. Okay, confidence intervals. We've defined the groups. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Boom, boom. And here you go. So So the people who favor gun permits have an average of 13.6 years of education. Those who oppose have about 13 years of education. It's different, but is it statistically significantly different? Well, we got to look down here to find out. All right, you're going to see a couple of rows here, right? Let's see. How do we want to approach this? Well, we have equal variances assumed and equal variances not assumed. That's kind of a pedantic point, but generally speaking, if you want to just kind of guess right at it, we're probably going to not assume that the variances are equal. They may be. But you see here, this bottom row, your degrees of freedom, was kind of imputed because we don't know the variance for each one. But here's your p-value. Here's what you want to look at first, really. It's 0.009. Now, that is less than 0.05. So what that tells you is that this mean difference of 0.626 years of education is statistically significantly different. Now, when you go to interpret this, is a 0.6 years meaningfully different? That has to do with your understanding of the subject area. But statistically, yes, we have a difference here. People with more education, or people who favor gun permits have more education. Those who oppose have a little bit less. And that's it. That's a t-test. There's not really much else to it. There is some confusion about equal variances assumed and equal variances not assumed. You may want to ask your instructor. Kind of different people have different rules about this kind of thing. I prefer to go with the not assumed because I don't like to assume much of anything. But as you can see here, it doesn't really change much. Went from 0.008 to 0.009. Again, not really changing the outcome. All right. There you go. T-tests.